can't even imagine what the suicide and homicide and just the rates of depression, and accidental deaths due to overdose are going to look like in the future. It's going to reach epidemic proportions. It's already, the statistics are already alarming, and yet nobody's sounding any alarm bells. So you have an addicted generation that doesn't have the skill set to ask for help. So when we say silly things like, my door is always open, you're assuming they have the courage to come in. Combined with the fact that they're so good at Facebook and Instagram, they're good at putting filters on everything. So they're good at showing you how smart and strong they are. These kids who commit suicide, you go look at their Instagrams, you would have no clue. And the leaders now are even more irresponsible. You are responsible for the lives of human beings, and some of these human beings are your children.
They're lonely, and rates of teen depression and suicide have skyrocketed since 2011.
Social media is our personal highlight reel, but we struggle with insecurity because we compare our behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reels.
Suicide rates are actually up 25%.
10 million people a year are thinking about suicide. 2.8 million have a plan.
We believe that there is a connection between these posts and the loss of their children.
Many of the stories include references to social media sites, recipe sites, how-to sites.
Recipe sites?
Yeah.
Instagram helped kill my daughter.
We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it! My life has value!
It concerns me that the signs are there online. The sheer amount of posts put up by people saying that they are depressed or they're getting suicidal thoughts, and it seems like these people are not getting recognised. I personally have my own Twitter account, as I wanted my own online space away from my friends and family. I've put up concerning posts online where I felt incredibly down and suicidal in an attempt to see if strangers would intervene or see if they would actually care in the first place. Out of all the posts I put up, I didn't get one message. Because of this, I want to find out if there is a social bias when it comes to helping out others emotionally online. Many years ago, I used to see posts online where a girl would have just posted something along the lines of a sad emoji face, and within a matter of 10 minutes I would see 60 likes and about 90 comments. Whereas when I saw a guy do the exact same thing, he wouldn't even get like 5 likes or 5 comments, and that really bothered me. I wanted to find out if people online would reach out and help those who are in desperate need by conducting an online experiment. I made 2 brand new Twitter accounts, one posing as a 24-year-old male and one posing as a 24-year-old female. In this experiment, I used the accounts to first make them look authentic by following big names and retweeting posts. For the profile pictures, I used previous existing images that were placed online. For the new profile under the name of Kyle Waters, I used an image of myself. For the new profile under the name of Katie Weller, I asked permission from a friend of mine to use a photo of her choice. I also went into the privacy and safety settings for both of the profiles and enabled a setting to receive messages from anyone. Now that the profiles have been set up, I posted a few tweets about lack of self-value and depression to set up the credibility of the final tweet. Once the posts were online and some time had passed, it was time for the experiment to begin. I thought that general just social media sites like Twitter and Facebook and so forth would have some form of algorithm in place, just to identify these tweets and actually be a bit more concerning and then push you towards the help you need. Actually physically get you in contact with someone, have someone contact you, just to speak to you, just someone to message you, for someone from the Samaritans or other big mental health societies like Heads Together and so forth. It was only a few days later that I actually got an email from one of the accounts saying that someone actually reported the tweet as it was concerning, and that was when Twitter actually messaged me. Right, a few days later it's too late. Like, in that time, that person could have killed themselves, and no one would have been any of the wiser. The warnings were there. The warnings were there. I put up the multiple tweets as warnings, then I put the final tweet as... It's just ridiculous. With an increasing popularity of anonymity, the hidden parts of the internet are now being further explored and discovered. These parts of the internet are also known as the deep web. Through identity and privacy hiding servers such as Tor, hidden web pages are a lot more easily accessible, meaning, if you want to find efficient ways to kill yourself, you're just a few clicks away. Some of these pages tell you detailed statistics on what suicide methods have the highest fatality rate, as well as a pain scale index. They also recommend in their own lists what method has the highest success rate. For obvious reasons, I'm not going to show you these websites. While researching these sites, I even found forums with like-minded people who would give you recipes and instructions on how to take your own life. Having that said, it's not all dark and gloomy on the deep web. There are pages along the way that will help prevent you from taking your own life. On the surface internet, I only found one website that is similar to those found on the deep web. On this website, it lists methods of suicide as well as suggestions on how to follow it through efficiently. And what leads people to search for these websites? Well, for me, it was Instagram. Monochromatic imagery, to be exact. I was so sick and tired of looking at posts of friends displaying happiness and questioned if they ever felt the way I did. Therefore, I searched for like-minded people who were feeling the same as myself. I travelled through a network of imagery which would only comfort me temporarily, but would make me feel worse in the long run. And once you follow one page, what does Instagram do in response? They suggest another, and another, and another. And for those of you who do not know what monochromatic imagery is, it's normally a black and white image with a relatable quote. I decided to get in contact with these pages to further explore their thoughts on their posts. One of the pages accepted to answer my questions, and here is what they had to say. Since the death of Molly Russell, who tragically took her own life when she was just 14 after being exposed to distressing material found on Instagram, the site has since then put some precautionary measures in place to protect people. One of these is by removing graphic images of self-harm and of those suggesting suicide. Having that said, they've done one thing that troubles me. When you search for content that may contain distressing images, you are displayed with a simple message which can be easily bypassed. But let's look at their support option to see what they have to offer. Once you click on the helpline option, it provides you with the contact details of a few trained professionals in the mental health sector. They also provide reader material for you, although I personally do not find anything on there constructive at all, as it is all easier said than done for people. It is said that 1 in 3 people who live in the UK suffer or will suffer with depression and anxiety. Out of the UK's population of approximately 66 million, that's 22 million sufferers. Looking at the statistics reports released by the Samaritans for 2018 and 19, they said they received 3.6 million calls. Yet there was a reported 6,507 deaths in 2018. It made me wonder why many don't seek the support they need. Therefore, I went back into my messages and asked a few more questions to gain some clarity on the matter. And I know what you're probably thinking. Why does this matter? What is the point of this video? Why me? What is so special about me that has a reason to challenge everything mentioned? I'll tell you why. My name is Matthew, and I'm a survivor of suicide. Throughout my life, I've always been treated badly. I've been led on in relationships more times than I can count. Been bullied most of my life, and just by going on social media it made me feel worthless. You know, looking at other people's posts, seeing them succeed in their dreams, and it just made me feel like a failure to everyone I know, including my family. I used to work as a receptionist at a hotel, and like every day we were getting complaints, and it was just so overwhelming every time. You know, when guests shout at you, they don't realise that they're speaking to another human being, and for me it got my mood down so bad, and management would just tell me not to worry about it because they're only shouting at the uniform. But every guest made me feel like I was responsible for the wrongdoings during their stay. Every time they would take away a little piece of your mentality. I went into work one day and said to my team leader, my depression has been getting quite overwhelming due to being shouted at every day by the public, and I've been drinking quite heavily after every shift, and I've been getting suicidal thoughts. So she said, oh okay, I'll get in contact with occupational health and I'll get you an appointment. So I thanked her and battled through the week. The next week I turned up for my appointment, and it was a hot summer's day. I was feeling incredibly low, and I was really ill as well. The nurse said to me, you know, do you want to work today? And I didn't really answer her, I was just umming and ahhing. And she said, look, just at least try. So I just agreed then, and then I walked back to the hotel. And then when I got there, I walked into the briefing room before the shift, and the first thing my team leader said to me was, you better cheer up and put a smile on your face before you get behind that desk, or I'll be having words with you at the end of the day. And it kind of put me back a bit, because this was the same team leader I approached a week prior, telling her that I've been feeling suicidal. And she tells me this, knowing full well I just came back from an appointment from occupational health. I was ill, depressed, and the sheer heat from the weather was overwhelming, so I was suffering with like 3 different levels of fatigue that day. No one checked to see how I was doing, no one assisted me. I felt so awful. At the end of the day I was about to go home, and my team leader pulled me aside into a boardroom, and I saw some disciplinary papers in her hand, and when we sat down she said to me, you've been having an attitude problem today. And I said, well, what do you expect when you like leave me out on the desk on my own for like 8 hours with no assistance, and you know I'm ill and I've been struggling to cope with life recently. And she said to me something that I will never forget. She told me, you need to learn to leave your own problems at home. And I was speechless. I didn't say anything to it. I just kind of just looked at her, and I couldn't even string a sentence together. She left me in that room sobbing. I was crying my eyes out, and she just left me in there. and she made me feel like I was being punished for having a mental health disorder. I mean, after all, she did have disciplinary papers in her hands, and so straight after that I took time off of work to help myself recover. But it didn't help at the time, you know, that I was also sort of seeing a girl who made me feel certain that she wanted to be with me. I had been led on so many times in the past, and she made me feel special. So she was literally the only reason why I was holding on to any reason to live at all. And she just turned out to be another statistic to add to the pile who have led me on. She cut all contact with me and stopped replying to me. And the reason it hurt so badly was because I'd been led on for 8 continuous months the year before by someone else. She destroyed me, and I knew... She knew I was depressed, and I was drinking heavily. But she cut all contact with me, and she didn't even give me a reason why. She just stopped talking and wanted to avoid me. The day was the 16th of July 2018. The pain from being led on again was overwhelming. I mean, that's the only word I can really think of to describe it. The pain from being betrayed by my place of work, you know, it destroyed me. And looking online at everyone else's lives, you know, just looking happy was killing me. It was like through the chaos, everyone was just continuing their lives while I was just suffering, and it seemed like no one cared at all. So then I wrote a post on Facebook telling everyone what I was going to do. So I decided to attempt to take my own life by drinking 8 bottles of beer, and then I washed down a load of sleeping tablets and painkillers. My next door neighbour, she caught eye of what I was doing, and she knocked at the door, and then I let her in, and soon afterwards the ambulance came. I'm not entirely sure who actually called the ambulance, but I was taken away, and I was there for pretty much most of the night. It was about a week later that I then discovered the girl who I really wanted to be with, who cut all contact with me. I then found out she blocked me on all social media platforms, and then I just lost it. I had another breakdown. I was screaming at the top of my lungs, and I lashed out. The way I lashed out was I decided to punch some broken glass that I found nearby outside my house. I just did it as a release for the mental pain I was feeling. It wasn't the first time I did something like this. I mean, in college I was once under a lot of stress, and I had like a falling out with a friend of mine, and the sheer levels of anger and depression that I was feeling was unbearable then. It was one of my one of the worst times in my life, and I self-harmed there, where I shattered a mirror by punching it in the bathroom, and I just punched it over and over and over again. I mean, I ended up having to go to hospital a few days later because my bloodstream got infected, and also my knuckle was split wide open because of it. And it's not nice, man. I don't want anyone to go through the same pain that I've been through. And I wish there was more support for those who suffer, because people just need to look out for other people, man. It's not hard. It's if you see someone struggling, actually just try and be comforting for them. You just need to check on them, just see how they are and everything. Just send them a message and say look, how you doing, and just be supportive of them. Sometimes you don't necessarily have to understand their situation, you just have to be empathetic enough to just listen to them. All they need is just time, patience and care. That's it. That's it. When I worked at the hotel, I worked with a colleague who said he previously worked for the Samaritans. I wanted to get an insight on how they operated, as well as obtain his opinion on various questions I have about mental illness. I contacted him and arranged to have a phone call with him in the morning. This is what he had to say.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. How are you, Michael?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you.
But anyway, you ready for the old question?
Yeah, go ahead, man. Go
Sweet.
ahead.
I'm going to put them in a bit of a different order. I mean, but well, yeah. So the first question was, because you told me when I worked with you a while ago that you said you used to work for the Samaritans. So why did you join the Samaritans?
Oh, yeah, that's a big question. There's a few different reasons. So mainly when I was going through my teens, like most people, they were sort of trying to find out about who they were as a person, their sexuality. For me, that was the main thing. I'm a gay man. I didn't really know what that meant when I was 15, 16.
Yeah.
I grew up in a school that was very anti-gay. There weren't any gay people that I knew of. At home as well, it was very much anti-gay as well. So I felt like I didn't have an escape. I didn't have an outlet. I had very, very few friends who I felt like I could talk to at school. I was really badly bullied. Again, this isn't like a poor me. Lots of people go through this, but at the time for me, it was the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
I didn't have an outlet. I didn't know who I could tell. And also in my own family, when I finally did come out to my parents, unfortunately it's left me not talking to parts of my family until now, till this day.
Yeah.
That was a big deal for me, and yeah, I basically I worked out what I wanted to do. I wanted to die. I didn't want to be here anymore. I knew how I was going to do it. I knew what things I had to put in place, and I did come across the Samaritans and had a look at some of the information.
Yeah.
And I decided to give them a call. And what I don't know what the right word is, what I really found comforting, I suppose, they gave me the space to talk, and they weren't trying to offer advice, or they weren't trying to fix my problems.
Yeah.
They were there to listen and support, and they asked me, do I want to kill myself? And that was the first time that I'd ever said it out loud to anyone before, and I said yes. And it opened up a whole conversation about how and when and who else knew, if anyone, and it kind of put things into perspective for me. And whilst it didn't fix anything, it didn't change how any of the problems going on in my life. It kind of, it was a comfort that I could say it and I wasn't judged, and someone even if they didn't understand, they were just there as a sort of supportive figure. I thought, you know what, I want to give back to people. There must be other people that feel like, there must be other young people especially that feel that way, the way I did, and I want to try and help if I can. And so I literally sent the Samaritans an email, found their information online, and there was, that's kind of history. There was a massive sort of recruitment process. It was like a real job. You had to go through an interview process. Then there was a 6-month training program, and then you had another 6 months where you were being mentored. So it's fantastic. But yeah, does that answer your question? That's why.
That's completely fine. See, obviously, like because you've been in the situation before, it's easy for you to empathise with other people's situations, and you know what it's like to not have a voice when you're silenced by a society which doesn't allow you to have one. So obviously, like for your time, it was a bit more difficult because expressing your sexuality was kind of quite frowned upon back then, because it was just kind of a hit and miss subject, because obviously it's a lot more accepted nowadays, but it's obviously back
exactly.
In terms of when you worked as a Samaritan, do you ever have like anything sort of set up there in terms of someone would kind of survey the like social media and so forth to identify certain tweets so they could make first contact at all, or how would that work, or would they solely rely on people, the people in the crisis making first contact?
Samaritans, for example, do a fantastic job in terms of outreach. They run outreach programs and go into schools, or they'll go into local offices or places of work, and they would talk to people about emotional intelligence, emotional health, and basically about being kind to one another. I know that sounds cheesy, but I think that's still something that's very relevant today. In terms of being proactive and going out there, when I worked there wasn't a great deal of that at all. However, I can't really speak to that. Might be very different now. I'm sure it is. You know, we're talking what is that? 11 years ago.
Yeah.
It could be very different, and I would hope that it is, because you know, it's. I suppose that would depend on the individual as well. One of the good things about the Samaritans is that, you know, they give people the space if they do choose to end their life, that they respect that choice. And I know that's quite difficult for some people, especially in this country when we're pro-life. And, you know, say, you know, we're almost very against someone. I think we're much better these days, but we're still very against people ending their lives. And there is still a stigma against people that choose to do that.
Yeah.
But one of the good things about the Samaritans is they, you know, they give the people the space and respect if they do choose and decide that they want to end their lives.
Yeah.
Then they're not judged for that. But I think that's a really interesting point. I was, you know, there's a part of me that would love to go back and see what's changed. I would be very surprised if there isn't more outreach on social media. And if there isn't, why not? That 100% there should be.
Yeah, because it really makes me wonder, because when I went through my crisis, I mean, I've had a few of them. I mean, I've had the Samaritans like number saved on my phone, but I've never had the courage to actually call them, and it's hard to give a reason why. But I know there's like loads of people out there who do the same. It's just they rather sort of just you know, suffer in silence, and they just can't make that first point of contact. But I think it's kind of, in a way, when people send out those tweets, they want to actually see if someone does respond, to see if they do care. And yeah, it's
kind of like, is there anyone there? Is anyone listening?
Pretty much. So this is why I kind of sometimes think maybe there needs to be sort of kind of a bit of a different strategy when it comes to mental health support, because a lot of people, I say, like, you know, the large majority of the numbers of those who suffer with mental illness, probably they won't even make that first move. You know, they might go to the doctors and like go on medication. I mean, that's normally sort of the first big step, but you know, a lot of people do that. But you know, when it actually comes to a crisis, people, you know, their judgment can be clouded, and then at the time, you know, when they're in that crisis, they can't get themselves out of their headspace to try and help themselves.
That's fine. You're not necessarily, I mean, some people are very logical when they're, but most, I would, you know, I'm sure it's up for debate, but most people aren't in their right frame of mind, are they, when they're going through that crisis?
Yeah.
They're not themselves. What I have to say is the Samaritans, they've done some fantastic work in recent years in terms of their branding and PR and advertisements. They do much more now in terms of advertising who they are, what they do, and even online, and also actually physically in real life. You know, you go to the train station now, you can't walk 20 feet, at least in London, without seeing a poster or placard for the Samaritans. And
do you think, you know, a person has to have a certain way about them, or you know, just to engage with that person, to try and to try and stop them? Or
do you mean in terms of working for like a support line, or do you mean just in real life? Yeah,
in real life. So say if like a friend puts up a post, or like, you know, a family member did, or you know, something. Would you think, you know, like it leave it up to professionals, but you know, obviously when it's a crisis, you know, kind of like time is of the essence.
Yeah.
You know, you can't...
I think people underestimate how much impact and difference they can make on someone's life.
Yeah.
Who is going through that. I'm sure there will be people that disagree, but I don't think anyone needs to have professional qualification or any specific training. I think there needs to be more awareness of how to talk to people who are feeling that way. But it's called being a human being. It's called being kind. Listen, I get that people are might be scared or
Yeah.
don't know how to approach it, or might fear of the level of getting involved. They might they might feel like it's gonna sort of come back on them in some way, or
Yeah.
they might be scared of making the situation worse.
Because this is kind of my perspective on the situation. It's say as soon as someone's put up that post, time is of the essence. So you need to kind of like try and quickly send them a message or get in contact with them, because for every sort of second that they're responding to you, then it delays them in their plan to actually carry out what they want to do.
I think people need to trust their instincts and what's the phrase I'm looking for? To trust them being a human being, right?
Yeah.
So, gosh, I mean, no. I mean, to directly answer your question, no. I don't think anyone needs a qualification.
Yeah.
But I do think they need to have a level of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Someone that's going to go and say some cliche things to you or try and fix your problems isn't going to be of any help to you. Well, again, that's up for debate. It might work for some people, it might. But certainly from my experience, if you're trying to offer direct solutions to people, if you're trying to shut down their comments or not take them seriously, that isn't going to make someone feel better, right? That's going to make them feel not validated, or might make them feel worse.
Yeah.
Someone that's, I think the most important thing is you need to listen to someone and give, let someone know that they can say those things without judgment or without what's the phrase? Without it going.
No repercussions.
I'm looking for. Without there being repercussions of saying those things. People should feel comfortable for saying those things, and that people should know that there's people there to listen and to support. You could say, well, what's making you feel this way? How are you feeling right now? And I know it sounds so cliche, but it's just giving the person to speak about their feelings.
Yeah.
It's quite refreshing and it's quite disarming. And sometimes the act of either saying it out loud or typing it is quite cathartic. It's quite therapeutic for the person to be able to put it into writing or to put it into words. And sometimes someone can't put it into words, and that's also quite disarming as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this it's called being a human being. You don't need any specific qualifications, in my opinion.
Just like you said in a phone call, you don't need any qualifications to make that positive impact, just some form of emotional intelligence. And during the making of this documentary, I have reached out to numerous people online. One person in particular sticks in my mind though. Her name is Laura. I saw her post a tweet saying her depression was making her alcohol abuse worse and she was going to shoot herself. I immediately sent her a message trying to talk her out of it, and thankfully, I succeeded. I encouraged her to cut down her drinking, and she took it one step further and then checked herself into a rehab centre. I unfortunately don't have the original messages and tweets sent between us available, as she said it was her drunk account, and she deleted it. I've spoken to her for a few months now, and then she sent me something quite heartwarming.
What is life? No, seriously, what is it? Life is what we make it. People's success sometimes relies on the failure of others, but we have to rely on the opinions of others to build ourselves up to the person that we want to be. Whether it's a job you're fighting for, a certain lifestyle that you dream of, happiness, for example. But in order to get there, you need one key ingredient, and that is the confidence of other people's support. Without it, you won't even move from square one. So what's the shame in helping others along the way? No matter how you label it, everyone is after the same goal, and that is to provide a more fulfilled life. So what's the difficulty in going that one step further and giving someone a helping hand? You may have the privilege of diverse perks to climb over the obstacles in your path, but many do not. If you see them struggling, give them a hand. It doesn't affect you negatively. You do not know how valuable you are in the eyes of those who need help along the way. And there is a simple way of showing that you care and that you want to help. Just send them a message. Build up a relationship with them. All you have to do is let them know that you are there for them. And don't just bail out when things get tough. Stay committed like you would do in any other relationship. People need to learn to open their eyes and not look at the world through rose-tinted glasses. There is pain and suffering around every corner. How would you feel if you were in the position of giving up and people would walk past you without a second thought? Empathy is key. It doesn't take any time out of your day. No one is ever too busy for you to just make a small difference. If you don't have time, make time. There is a reason why the pen is mightier than the sword, because our words can either cut the deepest wounds or heal us in harrowing times. I've contacted as many people as I could online who need support, but I can't do it on my own. I need your help. Instead of viewing social media as a weapon against our minds, let's utilise it as a tool to raise more awareness during this mental health epidemic. Get the leaders' attention to tailor their algorithms to shelter the vulnerable. Use this video to educate and to enlighten those who need guidance for their loved ones. Show those who struggle patience, understanding and support. Use the hashtag imwithyou to show that you do care. Reach out to everyone in need. Use the hashtag imwithyou to create a network of trust. Use the hashtag to create a better world for our generation and the many generations to come. I made this video so others wouldn't have to go through the same feelings of hopelessness and abandonment. Together we can spread more awareness on mental health. Together we can make the world a better place. Together we can lower suicide rates. If I can do it, then so can you.
Everything is really hard to find, really hard to find, really hard to find. When the people start to make war and peace is gone, peace is gone. I start to think why all of this matters. It doesn't matter, all of it doesn't matter.